welcome to R&B Reviews. I'm Dave.
I am Rob.
Brendan.
And this week is gonna be our last video for the April Fool's segment. And this week we're gonna be reviewing 3 John Belushi movies. We've got Almost 1941 and Blues Brothers.
I think it's a good way that we are closing our April Fool's Marathon with John Belushi, because we live near Chicago and he's like a legend over here.
Right.
And Blues Brothers was shot here in Chicago, and he started out doing improv at the Second City in Chicago, so it's great that we're closing it off on a legend. So, okay, so first movie we're going to review is Animal House.
It's probably one of my more favorite Belushi movies, and it's probably the funniest. I like a lot of the funny gags in it, like the scene at the buffet line when he's like taking everything and then he like fills his mouth. Or the scene where they try and tranquilize the horse and it goes all wrong.
Animal House, for me, Belushi makes the film, because some scenes that he's not in just aren't as funny as when he's there, because he's doing some things unexpectedly. At every turn you don't know what he's going to do next. And that's what I like about it. Like he mentioned, the lunchroom or at the toga party. I mean, when some of the people go on the road trip and he's not there, it's just not as funny as the other stuff, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same sort of comic energy, and the main characters are all very straight-laced and stuff, like Tim Matheson and Tom Hughes, and John Belushi just brings that insane, like you were saying, he's unpredictable, like sort of energy to it, and you're right, the scenes without him kind of feel like they're lacking, but in terms of like great comedies, it's one of those ones where he's one of the great supporting characters in it. Like Marty Feldman was in Young Frankenstein, for example. I think it's just one of those, even though it's not my favorite Belushi movie, it's one of my favorite roles he played.
Yeah.
He really does make a movie. John Landis, is a great director who made the movie, and it's just one of those comedies that you gotta see. It's like Wizard of Oz or something.
Yeah. It's a
little raunchier, but still a must-see.
I'd say it's got a good cult following and everything.
Oh, I think it has more than a cult following. It has
yeah.
a real strong following to it. Yeah. And my suggestion is if people watch this movie, don't watch it on network TV, because I've seen it once on network TV and they heavily censored it.
Yeah.
Like what they did with Blazing Saddles, like they take out the bad words or they change some scenes around, and it's just not the same. It's not funny as if you see it on DVD.
Yeah.
Or they'll go to a commercial like right before something really raunchy and bad is going to happen.
If you're going to watch it, rent the DVD. I don't know how it is on cable, but on network TV they really censor it. Moving on to the next film, the infamous 1941. Now, this movie splits people. Like, people say it's underrated and it's good, and people really, really hate it.
Well, I'm glad I finally saw it, for the purpose of this review. But the movie, since that's an extended television sort of director's cut, it's like 2.5 hours long. I mean, the movie is so drawn out. It's funny, and it's one of those great sort of, it's got a great ensemble cast, and Belushi's character is great. He's got one of the greatest character introductions in a movie ever. The scene with him pulling up to the gas attendant and all is just classic, telling him, gas it up. It takes place a few days after Pearl Harbor. I kind of felt like this is just strange subject matter.
Right.
Because a lot of bad things came out of those attitudes in the country at the time, like internment camps, stuff like that. And they were sort of going for this very cartoonish, over-the-top comedy, like it had very sort of Three Stooges, Marx Brothers kind of energy to it.
Yeah.
But it just didn't keep me interested, and the subject matter just kind of kept turning me off.
Yeah, it had great cinematography, it had a big ensemble cast. Like you said.
Yeah, it definitely earns its Academy Award nominations for the effects and everything, but this is just kind of like, it's sort of a strange, it's just a strange product. Spielberg's made way better movies that took place in the 1940s than
Belushi, he was good in it, but considering he wasn't in there enough and he wasn't the main character, it didn't work. It's funny in the beginning because it's like, the way it starts out, it makes it look like a serious film is about to take place, but it's really not. I mean, you got the words on the screen saying the storyline and everything, setting the piece, and then there's the really bad parody of Jaws.
And something you complained about was the subtitles with this.
Yeah, when the Japanese on the sub or the German commander would talk, the subtitles would come on the bottom, but sometimes they'd flash like so fast before you could like read them that I had to rewind and reread them again to get what they said.
When the movie first came out, it was 137 minutes, but later Universal told Spielberg he can put together a director's cut for television. It's 2 hours and 46 minute, no, 26 minutes, and it's just way too damn long in my opinion. I'm really curious about what the theatrical cut looks like because, just to see that, because they add a lot of stuff back in there, and some of it just drags, and some of the stuff I don't think even should have stayed on the cutting room floor. And interesting enough, there's more deleted scenes in the bonus features that don't appear apparently in either cut. This version is the only one that's on DVD right now, and I don't think the theatrical cut's ever been out on video or on DVD. Honestly, I don't know how you guys feel, but I think Spielberg was probably the wrong director for this. I mean, he's good with like action films and suspense, and even some scenes in some of his other films have some comedy elements, but he's not a comedy director. I think if John Landis or Robert Zemeckis, who co-wrote that script, directed it, I think it might have been better, but I think Spielberg was just not the right choice for this movie.
Yeah, I think John Landis would have been a better person to direct this. It would have been a lot funnier, and Belushi may have had more scenes.
It doesn't take place in reality at all. It can still be a turn-off, I guess, because it's such strange subject matter you never really see. I mean, you're never going to see a comedy taking place a couple days after 9/11 with a bunch of New Yorkers like this. That's not going to happen, but it just kind of felt off. And like Animal House, you got Belushi in a supporting role, and you just want to see him, you know, kind of have the whole movie.
Yeah. Finally, Blues Brothers. Now, this is probably my favorite Belushi film. It's a good musical comedy. I think it has a lot of great energy, and of course, Belushi's pretty good. Aykroyd is probably one of his better performances, and even though it could be argued that the covers of the songs that they do aren't as good as the original, it's still a great, I think, a fun, entertaining film. And since we go to a lot of since this movie was shot in Chicago, and we've been to a lot of these locations, like the bridge at the beginning of the film, it's like a real big thrill.
It's great that you know, Landis takes advantage of locations like that.
All the sites that were used are like things that we see basically every time we go down there. I know
it's one of the great Chicagoland movies. I think like Untouchables is huge to me at least, and you know like the opening is at the Joliet prison, where they shot the entire first season of Prison Break as well. So every time I see either Prison Break or Blues Brothers, I'm always reminded that it's one of those, like you said, it's out of the three movies we're talking about here, it's my favorite as well. And you got Belushi finally in a title role here. I mean, he's playing Jake Blues. He's leader between him and Elwood, and they're both really laid back. And Belushi, you know, who's finally in a title role and everything, but it's easily, I think, because it's such a laid back performance, the Animal House kind of does overshadow it.
Yeah, it's a more serious role.
Comic scenes. I mean, all their comedic scenes kind of come off in a more subtle way. I love the scene when they're trying to recruit one of their band members who's like a maitre d' at this very fancy restaurant. And they're throwing like the cocktail back in each other's mouth.
Yeah, that's actually the real restaurant. This movie has for a long time held the record of having the most car wrecks.
Got some of the great stunt work in there. Landis, who was a stunt man and does a few stunts in the movie himself, you know, the police car chases are great. I mean, these police officers, it's like a video game or something. Every time they just go off flying one direction. All these in his musical performances, he completely comes out, and he's like him and Jake and Elwood both have their whole energy.
And you got all those good musical performers. You got Ray Charles,
Aretha Franklin,
James Brown,
Like 1941, there's two cuts. There's, I think it was the 25th anniversary DVD. There's the original theatrical cut, and then there's this extended cut, which was one of the early preview prints that adds about 15 minutes of footage left. And that extended cut I find hit and miss. I would probably recommend the theatrical cut, but if you end up renting the DVD, watch them both.
Yeah, the extended cut's got another really weird scene where you see Elwood without his sunglasses on, and it's kind of strange because he wears the sunglasses like the entire movie.
Yeah.
Jake only takes his off at one specific scene.
Yeah. Right.
And it kind of throws you off a little bit, especially if you're seeing it for the first time. It's like, oh, wait, that's Elwood.
He only made like a handful of movies, and one of them I reviewed, Continental Divide, and if you guys haven't seen my Continental Divide review, check it out. It was the only film he did that was a romantic comedy that he also had a lead in. He did a dark comedy called Neighbors, which, like 1941, seems to split people, and unfortunately...
Is that also with Aykroyd?
Yeah, and unfortunately he passed away shortly afterwards, and we lost a really great, funny...
Yeah, who knows what sort of comic masterpieces we would have had. I mean, look at all the other SNL alums have done, like Aykroyd and Bill Murray and Chevy Chase. Okay,
that's it for our John Belushi review. And leave your comments, tell us what you thought about the video and what your favorite John Belushi film is, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you guys later.